Okay, our graphing lesson today is over bar graphs. I have a third grade class, and their previous knowledge they should have knowledge of simple graphs, knowledge of components of graphs, and also knowledge of the uses and purposes of graphs. And my objective is to teach students about how to construct bar graphs and why they are useful. To my lesson. Good morning, class.
Good morning, Ms. Johnson.
I am so excited about our lesson today, and I think you all will really enjoy it. Remember that yesterday we talked about pictographs, which use pictures to represent an amount of data. Today we'll be talking about a new type of graph called a bar graph. Can anyone tell me what a bar is?
A bar is a long piece of something.
You're right. They are long in shape, and they kind of look like rectangles. Let's review how we set up a graph. Once we draw our graph, what does the bottom line represent?
The x-axis.
Yes, the x-axis is the bottom horizontal line of the graph. It measures variables that are independent, or variables that do not change. What about the line that runs up and down vertically?
That's the y-axis.
You're correct. Our vertical line is our y-axis. It measures variables that are dependent or that do change. A bar graph will look like our pictograms that we did yesterday, but instead of pictures, they'll be replaced with bars. Let's look at an example of when it may be appropriate to use a bar graph. So suppose we wanted to compare a favorite movie type or favorite movie types among each of our classmates. We could take a survey to see how many of us liked each type of movie. Let's say we will list our possible movie choices as comedy, action, romance, drama, and science fiction. Let's take a survey right now to see how many of us like which kind of movie, and please raise your hand only once. So, raise your hand if you like comedy, action, romance, drama, and science fiction. Okay, so I took tallies of each of those, of how many of you liked which type of movie, and we can make a bar graph now using this data. So 4 of us liked comedy, 5 of us liked action, 6 of us liked romance, 1 of us liked drama, and 4 of us liked science fiction. Let's make a bar graph representing this data. What variable do you think will be on the x-axis?
The movie type?
Yes, you're correct. We will write out each type of movie along the x-axis. And what will be our variable for the y-axis?
The number of people who like the movie.
Excellent! The y-axis will measure the number of people who like each movie. We can draw our bar graph to look like so. So you can see that our title of our graph is favorite type of movie. Our x-axis lists out each type of graph, each type of movie, comedy, action, romance, drama, and science fiction. So our lowest number was 1, and our highest number was 6. What might be a good range of numbers for this graph?
We can do anything higher than 6 because that's the highest number.
Exactly. Let's go with 10 then. As you can see, once we plot the point on the graph for each movie, we can draw a rectangle from the x-axis to that point. What does each bar represent?
The number of people that liked each movie.
Exactly. Very good job, class. Finish writing this example in your journals, and then let's practice another. So suppose we wanted to compare test grades among our classmates for a certain test. Let's say the results were as follows. The number of people who got A's was 4, the number who got B's was 12, the number who got C's was 10, and the number of people who got D's was 2. How do you think we can set up this graph? What might we label our x-axis as? Remember, this is the variable that does not change.
Could we label it as the type of grade?
Yes, that's exactly what we must do in this case. Our x-axis will be listed across with each letter grade. And what about our y-axis?
That will be the number of people that got a certain grade.
Well done. Let's draw it out and see what our graph looks like. So our title of our graph is Student Grades. We have listed out on the x-axis letters A, B, C, and D. And we can see that A and D were the lowest amount of people who got those grades, and B and C were actually the most received grades. What do you think that the grade for B means, since it was the tallest grade, the tallest bar graph on our graph?
It means that most of the class got B.
Great job! The graph makes it easy to see that B was the most awarded grade because it's the tallest bar. What about the smallest graph?
That would be graph D.
You're right. There were very few Ds given out. This was the least awarded grade. And we can see that because our bar for graph D was the smallest and shortest bar. Nice job, class. So let's try another. Say we wanted to compare the age groups of people who visited the movie theater last weekend. We want to measure the age groups of people in the following categories: 6 through 12, 12 through 18, 18 through 24, 24 through 30, and 30 through 36. What is different about this example?
Well, the groups of people are not single ages, they are ranges of ages.
Exactly. If we were to try to construct this graph, our x-axis would contain the ranges of ages, and the y-axis would be the number of people who were in a certain age group. But since we are measuring ranges and intervals here, and not single people, this would not work as a bar graph. We will actually learn about this graph later on. So for our activity today, we're going to get moving on our feet. You all will be walking around the room and will ask 10 people to find out what their birthday month is. It will be easiest for you if you first write down the names of the 12 months of the year on notebook paper. Then you can carry this paper around with you and put a tally mark down next to each month you are told by your classmate. At the end, you should have 10 tally marks. Once we have completed this activity, you will return to your seats and I will pass out a sheet of construction paper for each of you. On here, you will construct a bar graph. Your x-axis should list out each month of the year, and your y-axis should show the amount of people who had birthdays in that month. I will be walking around the room once you start looking on your bar graphs. Also keep in mind that everyone's bar graphs will look different. Why do you think everyone's bar graphs will look different?
Because we are all asking different people.
That's right. Your set of data will be different than your partner's data table because you'll be comparing different people. So let's get started.
Miss Johnson, I'm confused.
Okay, what are you confused about?
I don't understand why the months are on the x-axis.
Okay, well think about it this way. What two variables are we trying to compare here?
The birthday month and the number of people who had birthdays in that month.
Exactly. Now remember, the x-axis variable is what kind of variable?
The independent variable.
Yes, the independent variable does not change like the numbers do. See, the numbers are different for each month and they change. Where do we place our changing or our dependent variable?
On the y-axis. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I have it backwards.
That's okay. I'm glad you understand. Let me know if you need any more help.
Miss Johnson, am I doing my bar graph correctly?
Yes, you are. It looks great so far. I like how neat your graph is and how clear you drew your bars. You also chose the right variables for each axis, and your number scale looks great. Very good job.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So how did you like this activity, class?
It was fun.
Great. Let's review what we learned today. Can someone explain to me how to draw a bar graph?
You draw separate long bars going up and down.
That's right. And who can think of a time when we use bar graphs?
You can use them when you want to compare the number of times different things happen.
Very well said. This is very true. We can compare the number of times something occurred and compare it to other things that occurred. Bar graphs are very helpful and can even be used in the real world. Any of the examples that we used today were real-life examples. Let's try to think of some more. We could draw a bar graph for the following. We could draw a bar graph for the number of people in the world in a series of 5 years. Compare a group of 20 people's favorite fruit. We could also compare the amount of sugar in different types of candy. And we could even compare a group of people's favorite food. Tomorrow we will learn about a graph very similar to the bar graph we learned today. It's called a histogram. When you go home today, see if you can think of any more examples to learn to use a bar graph and write them in your math journals. See you tomorrow, class.